Hey everybody, Josh, media here, and this is an extreme cover up we are dealing with regarding Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, which we all know it's the most blatant cover up I think we've ever seen. And now we have this ridiculous testimony out of Ghislaine Maxwell that says no Jeffrey Epstein client list exists. And the DOJ has released this interview recording, and it just seems like something that was coaxed, that was scripted, that was exactly in line with what Mossad does. But of course, we have the absolute morons out there that are in this camp where anything the Mossad says essentially is true now. Like people like Nick Sortor, who says it's destroyed the leftist narrative. The left and the right are both hijacked, controlled oppositions to each other. And a big part of that is this blackmail operation that we are witnessing here. So we're going to go into this and more today, my friends. Before we do, I urge you to check those links below and help support us if you can. Thank you so much to those who've gone on this gogetfunding.com campaign and helped support us recently, since we announced, like, hey, we are very close to closing our doors. We've lost 90% of our revenue since January, and we've been shadow banned and shut down by basically all ends of both mainstream and alternative media websites. Thank you to those who've reached out and helped. We could not survive without you. And honestly, I mean this, you guys are keeping us going. But of course, we still have about $7,700 more we have to raise to keep ourselves up and running in the next month or so. So just deal with the debts and all the other things that we're dealing with. So we appreciate the help and the continued support. We have Subscribestar, Patreon as well. Both, if you, of course, if you pledge $4.99 a month or more, you will get exclusive content. Same with on sites like X at World Alt Media when you subscribe. We have a PayPal, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com, all linked in the description. And we have this Bitcoin address that you could scan on the screen or check out in the description as well. And finally, we have this Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. So we really, truly appreciate the support. Thank you for keeping us alive. Now let's get into this. Huge cover up. Ghislaine Maxwell says no Jeffrey Epstein client list exists as DOJ releases interview recordings. And it says Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche conducted questioning of Jeffrey Epstein's longtime lover and convicted accomplice. Now, this notion that there was no list, first of all, as I've said before, the list may in itself not specifically exist. They do have obviously a long list of clients, but I think much of that would be on videotape. And the FBI found in Epstein's Manhattan apartment / mansion back when they initially raided it a bunch of videos in a safe. And of course, boom, poof, it's gone. We don't know what happened to it. Of course not. Of course not, because they're Mossad blackmail tapes. And these are things that if we're going to ask the U.S. government for this list, we should be asking Mossad, we should be asking the Israeli government for this. But of course, we know the Israeli government heavily controls the narrative in the U.S. Indeed, they even call for social medias to take down posts, and social medias agree. There's a reason. There's a long trail of blackmail here. And of course, why would Mossad, a Mossad agent who's convicted of trafficking children, I should add, why would she say that there's no list? Gee, I wonder. Gee, I fucking wonder. Excuse my language here. We have a lot of children that need justice who have been molested, but here we are sitting on our hands acting like, oh, there's nothing to see here. This is insane. And this idea that, you know, with someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, that she would be telling the truth. And why is she in jail then? Why is she in prison? Why was she put in prison if there is no list, if there are no clients, if there was no blackmail operation, if he wasn't an intelligence agent, which she now claims he was not, though she admits that her father was? It's just so obvious and blatant what's happening right now. But hey, she was just moved to a different prison, and hey, she's asking for a pardon so she doesn't have to serve out the rest of her sentence, because with Trump calling all of his supporters that want justice for those children weaklings, and I quote, weaklings, then of course for her that leaves the door open for Ghislaine Maxwell to say, hey, if we're going by that logic, I didn't do anything wrong, so you can release me from prison now. I mean, this is so obviously a blatant cover up, and Trump is pushing in the chair for Netanyahu. It's pretty clear. It's a $1 trillion budget for defense, which is the largest in history, most of which is going to Israel to annex Palestine and target Iran. I mean, that seems to me like a pretty blatant example of blackmail being used against someone. But nonetheless, the New York Times has 5 takeaways from Ghislaine Maxwell's interview about Jeffrey Epstein. And it talks about several of the things that she was saying, including that Trump was an upstanding man, that he never did any wrongdoing. There is no list. She says that she does think that he did not kill himself, but she says he could have. That goes against Mark Epstein. That goes against the second autopsy that was done, and that goes against obviously everyone's intelligence. But she praised Trump and distanced him from Epstein. Well, she's asking for a pardon. Epstein was indeed in a lawsuit alongside Epstein. Trump and Epstein were both defendants. And this was over molesting a 12-year-old girl. And this is like a decade and a half ago, before he was in politics. So people cannot claim that it has anything to do with that. And by the way, I want to point out here that we have to remember Trump claiming that this is an Obama hoax, obvious bullshit excuse. Before, first of all, Obama never talked about Epstein. that was clear. And his first arrests were done under George W. Bush. And I've been talking about this since 2009, long before Epstein was anywhere in the media. Everyone thought I was crazy when I talked about him and Bill Clinton on the Lolita Express, etc. Kevin Spacey and these people joining him. People thought I was crazy back then. Same with when I went to the police about Peter Nygard around 2009 as well, after my ex-girlfriend had previously been molested by him when she was 14, allegedly. Since then, I've talked with Nygard's son, who's totally an upstanding guy, great guy, who's been pushing back against what his father did. But the point is, I was talking about this a long time ago, before Trump was ever in politics, before he was involved in any form of politics, other than doing a fake run with Jesse Ventura in 1999 in an independent party, just as part of a publicity stunt. I mean, so it's just absurd. In fact, when a lot of this Epstein stuff was coming out, Trump was still openly on the left, a Manhattan liberal who was big friends with the Clintons. And let's talk about that for a second, okay? So Howard Lutnick, the head of Trump's transition team, the guy that follows Trump around everywhere, and whenever Trump does a speech on Epstein saying there's nothing to see there, Lutnick is behind him. Howard Lutnick was the owner of the home next door to Jeffrey Epstein and went to allegedly a lot of parties there. Well, here's the thing. Lutnick in 2016 was hosting Hillary Clinton fundraisers for her campaign at that house. And then fast forward, Trump gets in. Then we're going to switch people here for a second. Alexander Acosta was being interviewed by the transition team for Trump for the labor secretary job. And he said at the time that he let Epstein go on a plea deal because he was an agent, an intelligence agent asset. That's what he was told by the government. So they let him go. And now fast forward to 2024 into 2025, and we have Trump's transition team, head of it being Howard Lutnick. And then suddenly he's running on releasing the Epstein files. He gets in, they say they have the files on their desk. They release this bogus stuff to fake alternative media reporters that have millions of dollars to push faulty narratives to keep everyone sitting on their hands while people like myself go broke. And then they say, look, we have it. It's all redacted, a total joke. And then they say, well, actually, we're revoking it for now for national security concerns. Gee, I wonder why. Israel. Then suddenly Trump gets heavily involved, helping Israel like over the top, sending this $1 trillion defense spending budget bill, and not to mention all the other stuff that he's doing for Israel right now. And then suddenly they say, we lost the files. And then suddenly they say, there are no files. And then suddenly they say, anyone talking about it needs to stop talking about it, and you're weaklings if you do. And then we have idiots, complete morons in the Trump camp that don't actually never cared about any of these issues, only cared about him and this image, this figure for themselves. It has nothing to do with actual political belief systems or anything. They don't give a shit about any of this. it's an identity, just like the left have their identities with the trans stuff, with injections, with all that kind of stuff. The right has their identity with now apparently immigration, biometrics, and covering up the Epstein list and bowing to Israel. I mean, both sides have this framing within the left-right paradigm, and it's sick. But now suddenly, if anyone asks about it, they're weaklings and idiots and panicins, as Trump says. And now all these people are just ad-libbing panicking on Twitter and all these other places on X. Anyone that asks any questions about a real issue of children who were molested and trafficked are now called panicins. Sickening. We want justice. I always did. I talked about this since 2009, as I said. Under Obama, I talked about it. Under Trump, I talked about it. And why didn't he do anything his first term? And he was in office when Epstein was arrested and knew about Epstein long before that, because he apparently kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago years ago. There's a lot of other information that pertains to that story that we've gone into before. Then under Biden, I talked about it, and people online say, where were you under Biden talking about this? You fucking idiot. I've been talking about this since 2009. Sorry, I'm not talking to anyone on that's watching this right now. It's so frustrating because we're dealing with someone who trafficked children for Mossad, was a blackmail agent, got video cameras in every room. And now we're weaklings and panicins if we dare to ask for justice for all these children who were molested, and many of whom have gone missing and or found dead under mysterious circumstances. And then we have Virginia Giuffre, who allegedly killed herself recently after claiming she never would. And that's after this mysterious situation with a car crash and claiming that she had weeks to live. I mean, it's such a blatant cover up. And so this Ghislaine Maxwell testimony is just another example of how she is utilizing this momentum to get out of prison, if she's even in prison, if any of this is even real at this point, because I don't even think Jeffrey Epstein was born Jeffrey Epstein. I think he was playing a character. I think there's a good chance he's still alive and probably sipping pina coladas on a beach in Israel at this point. So again, it's total nonsense. Oh, we have we lost the prison tapes. Oh, actually, we do have the prison tapes after all this time, and here they are with minutes missing from it and a bunch of editing done on it. So she's saying Trump had nothing to do with anything. Epstein didn't kill himself, but that he could have. Then she basically again started praising Trump, and she says that he was not an intelligence agent. That they knew many people like Elon Musk, Andrew Cuomo, John Kerry, Edward Kennedy, Sarah Ferguson, Naomi Campbell, Alan Dershowitz, Kevin Spacey, and Larry Summers, but they were simply her friends or business relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, and then she goes into all this stuff. There's some Ehud Barak out of Israel, but don't worry, he was not involved in any way with the Israeli government. Okay, sure. Never was an informant, never was working with the FBI, CIA, or Mossad. Never. And she said, but, and she also points out that they never had contact with the Mossad agent. Well, not deliberately. Pardon me, Mr. Blanche said. She repeated, not deliberately. Mr. Blanche did not ask what she meant by that and moved on. Give me a break. So, absolute bullshit coming out of here. Ghislaine Maxwell describes Trump as a gentleman in all respects, denies inappropriate conduct by him in DOJ interviews. As I wrote on X at World Alt Media when they released this stuff where she said Ghislaine Maxwell implicated no Epstein associates during meetings with Deputy Attorney General, sources say. I wrote, of course Ghislaine Maxwell didn't implicate anyone. What? Did you actually think she would? This is all one big scripted piece of theater. She's a Mossad agent. The politicians she's speaking of are her lackeys. But then again, you have complete morons like Nick Sortor, who is just gobbling up the testicles of any establishment figure that helps him get up in the world. He says, breaking, Ghislaine Maxwell confirmed she never witnessed President Trump in any inappropriate settings in any way. The leftist narrative is in shambles. Yes, you believe someone who claims that he was an intelligence agent, that there was no sex trafficking, that Jeffrey Epstein was innocent. She claims all these things. You're going to take her word for it. The leftist narrative is in shambles, Nick Sotor. Both narratives are in shambles. The left and the right are both in shambles by their own doing, at least among those who have enough brain cells to understand or comprehend the cover up here and the psyop that's happening. Disclosed.tv says, just in, Ghislaine Maxwell says she admires Trump's extraordinary achievement in becoming president now, and Trump has absolutely never in any context done anything inappropriate. Oh, and by the way, can we get a pardon? Because that's the next thing she asked for. Can I have a pardon? Ghislaine Maxwell says, father was intelligence asset. Trump was never inappropriate. DOJ transcripts. Absolutely never in any context. Sem Tripoli shared this. Is funny because he says, not one person of real power will be arrested. See how they are sidetracking us right now. Breaking, FBI Director Kash Patel announces Operation Restore Justice, resulting in the arrest of over 200 individuals involved in child sex operations across 55 FBI field offices, rescuing 115 children and declaring, if you harm our children, you will be given no sanctuary, which is great, by the way. But Operation Pacifier had more children that were saved in that case as well. And of course, they are still covering up for thousands of children who've been trafficked in this Epstein case. But don't look over here, look over here, look at what we're doing over here. Great. And of course, they have to throw out a bone to us every now and then so that people sit on their hands. And this is exactly what I see with this story. Nonetheless, very good to see. Second, I am not convinced in any way, shape, or form that this is anything other than them trying to cover their own tracks. But you still have these absolute fucking idiots. The people that just still bow to this Q stuff after all these years. No ties, says Hustle Bitch on X. Do you really understand what's just been unleashed? Not an accident, not random. This is the signal. Really, they're not wearing ties. Oh, that'll mean that they're really getting to business here. They're just bow to Daddy Trump and Daddy JD and Mayorga or whoever this guy is, and bow on your knees and do whatever they tell you to do, because don't worry, trust the plan, sit on your hands, trust the leader. It's crazy how many people in alternative media I've seen recently just say, trust the leader. I trust Trump. I know there's something to this, so I'm going to wait and see what happens. There's children that are trafficked, continuing to be trafficked, and we're just going to trust the plan and sit on our hands. How many times have you heard this before? Going back to ancient Greece, for the love of God, we have a guy not wearing a tie. Oh, that's a signal. Oh, they're down to business. Look what they're going to do next. I mean, my goodness. And then the people that are rightly pointing out Trump is covering this stuff up, then they say, well, I don't think that JD Vance wants any of this to be happening, so I'm going to vote for JD Vance in 2028, they'll say. And it's like, you guys don't understand. It just keeps going on to the next, putting it further on down the line over and over and over and over again, never finding any justice, never making any real change. And that real change comes from within, because if people are going to be asking for change in every political race going back to ancient Greek times, then perhaps the change is not within the state, the haircut behind the podium. Perhaps the change is within you as an individual, withdrawing from the system, pushing back against the system in a way that you aren't dependent on the system, which is what they want as they bring in this technocratic new world order. So tired of these circles. And they'll continue, and they'll throw something else to distract you in our face. I mean, most people forgot about Epstein for a couple of weeks until this Ghislaine Maxwell story came out. And of course, when people forget about things, they move on. They forget it ever happened. They move on to the next thing. And we never actually find real answers. And they just keep inundating us with psychological programming to keep us complacent. This is something we need justice on. Stop calling people panicans and weaklings for simply wanting answers on the trafficking of children. And the obvious, I mean, Epstein himself boasted about being a Mossad agent. The obvious intelligence agency assets that are utilizing this, in one way, blackmailing people, in the other way, keeping the blackmail alive because they're not going to release the blackmail they have on people and expose themselves. So utilizing this to then say there's nothing here, which is in itself another intelligence agency psychological operation. Truly sickening. Anyway, we have been talking about this from day one. We have been talking about this for a very long time, and we will continue talking about this, and we will not give up until we see justice. But of course, that justice will not come from within the state. So waiting and sitting on our hands, waiting for the state to expose themselves is pretty stupid. It's like, hey, let's do another investigation on 9/11, but have the government investigate themselves. Oh, let me see. No wrongdoing here. Don't worry about it. Like, and then the Epstein, or not just the Epstein documents, but the JFK files. I mean, my goodness, when will people learn? It's nice to have hope every now and then, but it's called hopium at a certain point, and it's a very dangerous drug, and we need to reject it at all costs. As I close this off, I appreciate any help we can get, as we are, because we refuse to bow to any leaders, we continue to get pummeled in a way we've never been pummeled before. All-time low on viewership in 10 years. But alas, we will never shut up. We will never stop telling the truth. We appreciate those who've helped us in the past and continue to help us. We have our gogetfunding.com campaign in the description. Thank you to those who've reached out and helped support us. We absolutely could not survive without you, and we will continue to put this out as an option. Once we raise up to about 10 grand total, which we're well on our way to, then we can take a bunch of ads off and not have to do stuff where we ask about this stuff. And I mean, it's frustrating. I hate doing it, but we have no choice. We're in a really rough situation here where we're almost homeless regularly. So I appreciate the help. GoGetFunding.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. Anything helps to keep us alive, my friends. If you pledge $4.99 on Patreon, Subscribestar, or exit at World Alt Media, you'll get exclusive content. Of course, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. And we have a Bitcoin address here, which you can scan on the screen or check out in the description of the video. We have our Cointree link here with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in, including privacy coins. And of course, all those are very much appreciated. We have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise linked in the description. If you want to also help support us while supporting yourself, I urge you to check out things like vni.life/wham, WAM, for super supplements, including Protovite, which is super cool. 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that help cellular health, immune function, etc. This is, if you use code WAM15, WAM15, you will save 15%. Look at this before and after. Absolutely amazing. This is the stuff that leads to clots, my friends, and this is a solution that stops those, in my opinion. I mean, look at the circulation before, horrible. 5 minutes later, red blood cells freely flowing, white blood cells quadruple their size. This is in 5 minutes. This usually takes months to do. So if you check out Protovite in the description, check out vni.life/wham, WAM, and get any of these things on the site. They have a ton of different products, and you use code WAM15. I don't think you will I don't think you'll regret it at all. This is a great option going forward. Check out those things in the description. We have Wave Watch 2.0. Use code WAM, WAM, and save $100 on your order. Again, this is great to fight back against the bad frequencies out there and have good frequencies on your wrist, like a rife. It's almost like a rife machine. Improve your sleep, reduce stress, fight pain, boost energy, boost immune function, boost your happiness and endorphins. This is amazing. 1,100 plus frequencies on this. Go and check it out in the description of the video. Again, code WAM, WAM, and save $100 on your order. We have a lot more options in the description of the video. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Find us on Telegram, Band.off Video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. We're on the bad guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms, except for Spotify, where, of course, we are banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not already. And until next time, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.